We are presently on Daf Chaf Vav Amud Bet up to the Mishnah. We know what a shofar looks like because we grew up with it, and we know approximately what its shape is because we've seen it. But the truth is, it's not so clear. Mishnah begins with a daya that you'll identify right away. It seems like it's not what we do. The Tanakama begins Daf Chaf Vav Amud Bet. Shofar shel Rosh Hashanah shel Yael Pashut. So it's made out of the horn of an ibex. The Yael is, if you go to Ein Gedi, you see the Yael is running around there. It's essentially seems to be an ibex. Pashut means that it's a straight horn. That's what we use. Mutsupa zahav, and it's opiv mitsupa zahav. The mouth of it is somehow covered in gold, which is its own question. Again, the Gemara we'll get into. What does that mean? The mouth is covered in gold. Ushtei chatzotzrot min hatzdadin. At least in the Makom HaMikdash, there were two trumpets that would stand, two trumpeters, one to each side of the person holding the shofar. Shofar ma'arich v'chatzotzot mekatzrot. The sound of the shofar was elongated and of the trumpets short. Shemitzvah hayom b'shofar. Because the mitzvah on Rosh Hashanah is to use a shofar. Uvataniot, on fast days, b'shel zecharim, from the male. And it's not necessarily the male ibex; it's really a ram, the zachar of the keves. It's the zachar is the ayil, so the ram. Kifufin, bent, upihen mitsupa kesef, and the mouth is covered in silver. Ushtei, this is the one in the mikdash at least. Ushtei chatzotzot ba'emsa, and there would be two trumpets in the middle. So the shofar is now a ram's horn. It's two of them, one on either side of two trumpeters who have the chatzotzrot, which are of course made out of silver as well. Shofar mekatzer v'chatzotzot marichot. The two that are in the middle keep going, and the shofar that's on either side is going to be shorter. Shemitzvah hayom, on a fast day, the mitzvah is the chatzotzrot. Shaveh hayovel l'Rosh Hashanah l'tkiya v'librachot, and we draw a direct line connecting the situation on Yovel with regard to the situation generally on Rosh Hashanah, Yovel being the 50th year on Yom Kippur. They blow shofar on Yom Kippurim of the Yovel year. And we do whatever we're doing on the Yovel is the same like we're doing every year, Rosh Hashanah, for Tkiya, and for the brachot. What's the brachot? So essentially, the brachot of the longest Shemona Esrei of the year, the Musaf of Rosh Hashanah, the 9 brachot, Malchit, Zechonot, and Shofrot. In the year of Yovel, not only do they do it on Rosh Hashanah as we do every year, they also do it on Yom Kippurim on the day of the Jubilee, like Rosh Hashanah davening. So it's Rosh Hashanah davening plus Yom Kippur davening because it's the 3 brachot, and also in the Birkat Hayom, it's going to reference Melech L'Chel V'Soleach V'Chulei because it's also Yom Kippurim. So you have both those elements. Rabbi Yehuda adds his idea, his thought. Rabbi Yehuda Omer Rosh Hashanah Tokin B'Shel Zacharim Uv'Yovlot B'Shel Yaelim. Rabbi Yehuda says on Rosh Hashanah we use a ram's horn, and on the Yovel we use an ibex horn. And if it's a ram's horn, it sounds like it's going to be bent, and an ibex is the Yael. It's going to be a straight horn. The Gemara will analyze all this, but first let's look just a little bit at Rashi, so we have some concept of what's happening. There's also a Tosfot that I have a pipe dream we'll get to tonight. It's a pipe dream, but we have to learn through the Gemara to understand Tosfot. So let's just start with Rashi here. Shofar Shoshana Yael Pashut. Rashi. Mefarish time of a Gemara, the mita de tefillah by pshitut. The rationale is explained in the Gemara because of its prayerful nature. When it comes to tefillah, it should be with simplicity. And it's simple or direct because it's straight. Yael, I think it says Steinbeck or Steinbuch, something like that. But I don't know more than that. Oh, yeah. There's a big discussion. Yeah, and famous American author while we're at it.
Yeah. John Stein, guy.
Yeah. So I don't really know what it means, but Beck and ibex is kind of connected, I guess. I don't know. The taxonomy of various animals and of fruits and of vegetables is a very important subject in halacha because it pertains to the halachas, what we're gonna do. We're coming up to Pesach, so the charoset has to have tapuach in it. So a bit of a question of what a tapuach was and what it is today. Ayin Sham in 2012 or 2013 when I asked everyone for the charoset recipes, and I was handing them. I don't know if you remember, we did a survey. What's in your charoset? You voted people with different ingredients, but the word in French, pomme, Pomme, may not be exactly the apple that you buy today. That in French is called a pomme, but in Europe there might have been other fruits, and in earlier times it might have been more of a pungent fruit. Anyway, so point being, now back to our regularly scheduled program for Rosh Hashanah, away from Pesach. So they're trying to figure out what are these animals, and it's not necessarily correct to say that that what we think of those animals is what they necessarily were then. We're in the ballpark, but there are questions that come up. So now Rashi continues. Upiv mitzupazav b'shal mikdash ka'amar, in the mikdash. This is surprising, right? Because we just had a whole discussion last week. You can't use the shalpara because maybe it's a problem of ein kategor nasa sanegor. And then we said, well, everything's gold. How about that? No, well, that's part of the furniture. It's only when it's an adornment. Remember? Therefore, the Kohen Gadol doesn't go lifnai v'lifnim with gold on, only with white. So the shofar never goes with lifnai v'lifnim to the Kodesh Kodashim. So who cares? No, but the kol shofar is the kilifnim dami. It's an internal sound. So it has that stature, and therefore it can't be made of a par. That was one of the ideas. Okay, so we'll get to it in the Gemara. Have to try to address it. So Rashi just wants you to know it's in the Mikdash that can happen. Next, Shofar Marich, Lachash Chatzatzot Poskin, Tkiatan Nishma Kol Shofar. Then you hear just the Shofar. Uvataniot, on fasting, Demrim Sechatanit, Tiku Kohanim Tiku. They're called to blow the Shofar for the purpose of assembling the people. It's not part of Tefillah, it's part of bringing people together to daven in the street. Bishel Zecharim, that's alien. Shestaman kefufin, right? The horn is going to end up being bent. Ushnei chatzotzot be'emtza, shnei shofarot lahen, echad mikan ve'echad mikan ve'hein ba'emtza. Each of the chatzotzot, each chatzotzra has to the side of it a shofar. The shemitzrayim chatzotzot lekinufia be'almaninu. Kinufia, assembly. The Aramaic word for knesset is kinufia, lachnis, or to bring together, to assemble. In Parshat Ba'alotcha, discussing the chatzotzot, you'll sound them to call the assembly together. Shave hayovel Rosh Hashanah l'tkiya b'pshutin. This is still in the Rabbanan, that they should have both pshutin and the shofar. V'afal gav tkiya to biyovel lo l'tfila v'lo zikaron el l'siman shiluach avadim v'ashmatet mechirat sadot. Even though the point of blowing shofar on Rosh Hashanah, on Yom Kippurim of the year of Yovel is not for a prayer, it's not for a zikar and lifnei Hashem. It's literally an announcement: set your slaves free. And Hashmat and Mechirat Sadot means everyone goes back to their ancestral homeland. According to the Shvatim, afilu hachi keder Rosh Hashanah by lema'avdina. The Gamrin and Lalik Zera Shava Shvi Perak Batra. You see in page Lamadalit, the Shvi. There's a hekesh between the two. They're both in the 7th month. Rosh Hashanah is in the 7th month. Yovel is in the 7th month. Even though Yovel is really on Yom Kippur, and Rosh Hashanah is Rosh Hashanah. Shvi. So there's a connection between the two. So all the dinim of one or all the dinim of the other when it comes to the shofar, that's the Rabbanan's position. Seems like it's not what we do. Because you go to a shul, got to be a ram's horn. We know it has to be a ram's horn. We learned a Gemara like that on Ted Zion. Remember the Akedat Yitzchak. So Akedat Yitzchak was a ram. It says, Ayil nechaz basvach bekarnav. So of course you're going to use a ram. But Shel Yael Pashut is the other idea. So well, according to the Mishnah we saw previously, it's kosher if it's from a kosher animal, but not a horn like from a cow, like an ox. But if it's any of the other animals, technically it would work, assuming that it has a shofar. Shofar means that it's hollow; it could be hollowed out. But here the Mishnah is telling us the shofar Rosh Hashanah should be made of the Yael. According to Rabbanan, according to Rabbi Yehuda, it's made from an Ayil. We seem to pass like Rabbi Yehuda. Minastam. That's what we all see in shul. Yeah. So now let's look into Gemara and we'll go a little
quick.
Yeah, please.
According to some things online, the Stein book
Oh,
is the Dishon, which is a type of wild goat or ibex.
okay.
Stein means
Good.
Stella.
Yeah, Stein is like a stone. It's a stein.
Huh?
Yeah.
So I have a question about the word zechar. I mean, why are we specifying gender here when there's no gender specified for the Yael? I mean, it doesn't seem to make a contrast of any kind.
Not sure. I'm not sure.
Was the Yael also a zachar, or they didn't care? Don't know.
Lo yodea. Lo yodea.
Okay.
My main man to consult with is Rabbi Natan Slifkin because he's actually a mumcha in these issues, and I do have it at home, but I didn't get a chance to look it up the last few days. I was like running, but there's an encyclopedia. No jokes aside, it's a real thing. It's an encyclopedia of animals in the Tanakh and in Chazal, and it's systematic. It's wow, it's great. He's still coming out with a second volume. He's got one volume out. He's coming with another volume. Yeah, please.
Mishnah talked about the brachot on the shofar.
No, this is the brachot in the Shmona Esrei. Yeah, the brachot in the Shmona Esrei. That would be the same on Yom Kippur of Yovel as they are every Rosh Hashanah.
But those, if you ask me what's the bracha of the shofar, is Ushmoa called shofar.
That's the bracha on the shofar. That's not what's being referenced here. The brachot, the word brachot here means not the brachot on the shofar, but the brachot in the Shmona Esrei of that day. Zichron and Shofar, because Yom Kippur is really considered part of, in quotation marks, Rosh Hashanah. It's at the top, at the head of the year, all 10 days. You'd say those also, but what would make it a unique Amida is that suddenly it's Yom Kippur and you're saying Malchut, Zichron, and Shofar would be extremely long because it's also Yom Kippur. So you're also going to say all the Al Chetz at the end.
Yeah.
So it's very, very long. But that's the point is just, it was only mentioned here because we're drawing according to the Rabbanan, direct line that links Rosh Hashanah every year and Yovel. So if you use one, El Pasut, you're going to use it for the other one as well. Francie, question? Oh, no.
So where are you going? You say it's so long. Where are you going?
Taka, but some of the people have trouble standing so long. So what are they going to do? They could sit in the middle of this stuff. I guess so. Gemara, Am Rabbi Levi, Mitzvah Rosh Hashanah v'Yom Kippur Mikfufin, v'Shel Kol Hashanah b'Pshutin. There's a Braita where Rabbi Levi says the Mitzvah Rosh Hashanah and of Yom Kippur is dafka to use one that is bent, but of the rest of the year, Rashi v'Shel Kol Hashanah Shel Ta'aniyot on the fast days. That's when you use a pashut one. So this Braita directly contradicts our Mishnah. V'Hatanan, but didn't we just learn in the Mishnah Shofar, Shel Rosh Hashanah, Shel Yael, Pashutu? Shouldn't it says it's the first line of the Mishnah? Shofar Shel Yael, Shel Rosh Hashanah, Shel Yael, Pashut. Remember? So it's right there. So how can the Bright and the Mishnah do not agree? Yeah. So how could Rabbi Levi say what he's saying? The Amar ki Haitana, the Tanya, Rabbi Yehuda Omer. No, so Rabbi Levi holds like Rabbi Yehuda. Rosh Hashanah, Hayutokim B'Shel Zecharim, Kefufin, V'Yovlet B'Shel Yaelim. Okay, so Rabbi Levi holds like Rabbi Yehuda. He just doesn't hold like Tanakama. Says the Gemara, V'Lema Hilchataki Rabbi Yehuda. Let's say the halacha really follows Rabbi Yehuda. Yamart Hilchataki Rabbi Yehuda. Havamina Fil Shel Yovel Nami Rabbi Yehuda. Svirale. Yeah. So maybe you'll if you hold like Rabbi Yehuda himself saying that on Rosh Hashanah you blow with the Shel Zecharim and the Yovel to Shel Yaelim. Look at the beginning of the Gemara here. What did Rabbi Levi say? The mitzvah of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippurim. What does it mean, Yom Kippurim? Of Yovel. You're supposed to use Kfufin. So Rabbi Levi didn't say like either the Tanakama nor like Rabbi Yehuda, because he holds it's Kfufin means bent, means it's a ram's horn. Rabbi Levi says ram's horn on Rosh Hashanah and ram's horn also on Yovel. And for fast days, that's when you're going to use the straight one. The Rabbanan in the Mishnah had said Rosh Hashanah straight and Yovel straight, and the fast days bent. Rabbi Yehuda had said on Rosh Hashanah bent, and the Yovlot straight. So so maybe you want to say Rabbi Levi and Rabbi Yehuda are together. No, Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda have Amina. Yovel Nami Rabbi Yehuda. Then it would mean that on Yovel you use Shel Yaelim, not of Pasha, but that's not what Rabbi Levi said. Rabbi Levi in the Gemara from the Breita said it's Kfufin. Doesn't add up. Yeah. Kamash Malan, B'mai Kamiflige. So it must be that what we have here, well, we should see actually Rashi, Kamash Malan, right? Rashi, Kamash Malan, Rosh Hashanah, Eat like Rabbi Huda, Rabbi Yovel, late Mishum Gzera Shava. So Rabbi Levi agrees with Rabbi Yehuda that on Rosh Hashanah it should be kafuf, should be the bent horn of the Ayil. But on Yovel, he doesn't agree with Rabbi Yehuda that there's Gzera Shava. Gzera Shava between the two contexts, again, when it talks about Shmit, Yovel, it says Shvi, and when it talks about Rosh Hashanah, the Yom Trua is in the Chodesh HaShvi. So Rabbi Yehuda had a connection between the two. Rabbi Levi doesn't have a connection between the two. Come on, Shmulan. So the Gemara asks, what exactly is this whole argument? What are we fighting about? Tanakam and Rabbi Yehuda, what's their issue? Marsa Rosh Hashanah kamat kayif inish daite tfei male, uvim kippurim kamat pasha inish daite tfei male. So the first opinion, which is really Rabbi Yehuda's opinion, says the more a person bends their intellect, bends their knowledge, right? They're more submissive towards the Kodesh Baruch Hu. That's better on Rosh Hashanah. And on Yom Kippur, you only blow shofar on Yom Kippur to make an announcement, to free the slaves, and to give people back their land. That's the only time you blow on Yom Kippur, on the day of Yom Kippur, the Yom Kippur of Yovel. The more straight, simple, straightforward, so that would be better. That's what's better. Umar Savar, the other opinion says, no, Rosh Hashanah come to Pashit Inish Daite Tfei Male. On Rosh Hashanah, the more direct you are in your tefillah, direct towards the Kodesh Baruch Hu, direct heavenward, so that's better. That's Amali, that's much better. Yeah. If you look at the Haggadah Bach, Gemara the Pashut Inish Daite Tfei Male, the Bach adds Uva Yom Kippur Nami the Gemar Gzera Shava. The Gemar Gzera Shava with Taniot Uvataniot Kamatakayev Inish Date Tfei Male. So he throws in the Bach from his manuscript about Yom Kippur that Yom Kippur is also going to be just like Rosh Hashanah, that the more direct you are, the better. But on a fast day, the more bent a person is, more submissive towards the Kodesh Baruch Hu. So that's better for that purpose. Look at Rashi; he gives you the backstory here. Look at Kamat Kaif Inish. The first opinion is Rabbi Yehuda's opinion. Bitfilato panav kivushin laaretz tfei adif mishum v'hayu eini v'libi sham einai v'libi sham. From the book of Malachim Aleph, in the tefillah that Shlomo HaMelech brings. He brings a whole tefillah about what's going to be with regard to the Beit HaMikdash, what it'll stand for, what it will mean for Klal Yisrael, and we'll lift our eyes towards Shemaim, etc. And then Hashem responds to him. Hashem responds to him and says, "I got your prayer. I received it, and I just want you to know." Hashem says to him, "My eyes and my heart," says Hashem, "will be aiming towards that place all the time." So my eyes and my heart, says Hashem, will be towards that place, and therefore we're not going to look directly at Hashem. We realize that Kodesh Baruch is looking at us. The more we bend over, so to speak, the more we're bent. So the shofar is bent to show that idea as well. We feel humbled in the presence of Kodesh Baruch Hilchach, Rosh Hashanah, to the tefillah, since the point of Rosh Hashanah of blowing the shofar is a form of prayer, and we're also Ulahazkir Akedat Yitzchak. We had that in the Gemara, Rosh Hashanah Tet Zayin. Be'inan Tfufin. We want to have it more bent over to show that we are seeking our Kodesh Baruch Hu's mercy, that we are in the presence of Hashem, etc. V'yovlot shein likro dror be'inan pshutin ugzera shava leitle. But the opinion that says that Rabbi Levi at least says there's no connection between the two. There's no gzera shava. You need pashut for the yovel. Why? Because everything's going free. So yovel dror kratim dror ba'aretz. You need psutin, and there's no gzera shava between the two. You have to do the same thing Rosh Hashanah as you do on Yovel. You can do different things. Kama de pashit adif tfei Rashi mishum nisa levavenu el kapayim. In the book of Eicha, We lift up our hearts towards our hands. We're lifting up our hands outstretched in supplication and desperation. So Hilkach Rosh Hashanah b'pshutin. So therefore, Rosh Hashanah b'pshutin. Why? Because the point is a part of the tefillah. The tefillah who it's part of of davening. Udu Yom Kippurim nami on Yom Kippur as well. I go to Bach, right? The shavehu mishum gzera shava, because it's meant to be the same because the gzera shava between shvi. And then uvataniot mishum de shavyua bigzera shava. Uvatanit lichinufia lo ichpatlan. We don't care which one you use, but we have the gzera shava, so we're going to use kfufin for taniot to call people together as a hacker. Rabbi Levi, itlik Rabbi Huda. Rabbi Levi agrees with Rabbi Yehuda. L'tfila ba'inan kfufim. We're going to Kippurim svirlei d'shava yovel Rosh Hashanah kirabanan hilkach tarvaya ba'inan kfufim. And Rabbi Levi holds like Rabbi Yehuda that it's for the sake of prayer. Therefore, you have to have kfufim on Rosh Hashanah. But in Yom Kippur, he disagrees because he thinks that actually, unlike Rabbi Yehuda, who says that Rosh Hashanah you're going to use Zechar and Yovel Shel Yaelim, Rabbi Levi thinks that in Yom Kippurim you should also use kefufin. Right? If you're given Svirle, the Shava Yovel Rosh Hashanah Kirabanan, and kefufin. And therefore, you should really put Yovel and Rosh Hashanah together. They both do exactly the same thing, which is kefufin for both. The Ayil for both of them. Okay, so I have 10 minutes. I think we could do this Tosfot. It's not such a complicated Tosfot. It's all relative. But look with me at the Tosfot. Shel Yael Pashut. Shel Yael Pashut. Okay, we'll see. We'll see how far we can get with this. Shel Yael Pashut. Pirish b'kuntras chayas shekain shma b'kornet ota. Same word as you saw before. Instead of Stein book, here it's Astan book. Same idea. Uva'ara pirish he kisba nekeva. It's a female, to Art's questions from before. It's a female. The Karen Akivsa Ragil Liot Pashut. The horn of this creature, the female, generally is straight. Uche Piresh Hakuntris Nira Yael Chaya. It sounds like it's referring to the Yael, which is a wild animal. It's a chaya, not a behema. Rabbi Slifkin's book is about the chayot. He has another one coming out about the behemot, but he didn't get there yet. Dichtiv harim hagvohim la ye'elim ve'akov dishon. That's what you quoted us before, Ronnie. Yeah. So, but that pasuk from Tehillim 104 that we say every Rosh Chodesh, right? Harim hagvohim la ye'elim. Shvanim, what is it? Slime machsel shvanim. A shafan is like a weasel of a sort. I forgot what it's called. It's not a weasel. They have them in Getty. Yeah, it looks here. It's not a rabbit though. It's not a rabbit.
Parrot? Badger?
It's like a badger. It's more like a badger of a sort. When you go to Ein Gedi, you should take your phone with you, which has Tehillim, of course, on it. And you go to Tehillim 104, and you could just read it. It's beautiful nature that Kodesh Baruch Hu created, and you see like there's the ibex, there's the Yael, because they're on the side of the mountains, like they're almost on a vertical slope. It's incredible. And then you see the shvanim. Slime is the boulders hide the shvanim, but you can see them here and there. They poke their heads up. It's like, oh, tell them. Okay. So enough waxing poetic. Now back to the regular schedule programming. So Matargaminan v'akova dishon is v'ya'ala v'rama. Okay. That's the translations. Umitzvah Shel Yael Pashut ki the mas from the Gemara the kind of Pashut Tfei Adif Mishum Nisa Levavenu El Kapayim. Right? And the idea that the Yael Pashut would be the one that you want because you're lifting up your hands, our hearts through our hands in supplication. Umiu Ein Halacha Kain El Rabbi Yehuda. The halacha doesn't follow any of that. That's the Rabbanan's position. It follows Rabbi Yehuda. Dama Rosh Hashanah B'Shel Zecharim Kefufim. Dahainu So Ayil. Rabbi Levi Kaikavatei, but Gemara. We just saw that. The Gemara has Rabbi Levi following like Rabbi Yehuda. Damar mitzvah, Shor Shasham, Yom Kippur Mikfufim. Because Savar Kamat Kaif Inish Tvei Adif. Mishum V'hayu Eini Einai V'libi Sham. It's Hashem talking. My eyes and my heart are there. Means and therefore you feel I'm in the presence of Hashem, so I'm much more humbled. Rabbi Yabau Parakama Lama Tokim B'Shofar Shel Ayil Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Tiku Lefana b'Shofar Shel Ayil, K'dei she'ezkor lachem Akedat Yitzchak. Umiu, but nonetheless, say the Bali Tosfot, near Ed the Lopsligi El Lechatchila. It's only Lechatchila that you have to use a ram's horn. Back to your kudu. Ella Aval Kulu Modu the Yotze b'Diavad Bein b'Shel Ayil Bein b'Shel Yael. You can use whatever you want in the end. Kedatani Reisha. Reisha means that Mishnah before. Kol Shofar Ksherim Chutz Mishel Para. You could use any kind, just not from an ox, from a bull. But you could use from any animal. This is not a contradiction. This is just saying the chatchila be better to use for symbolism purposes, for the tefillah purposes, from an ayil. But if someone had another kind, that's all you could get. Then that's what you would use. Right? You could use something else. The Rachel is the ewe. The Sirizim is a goat. You could use that. The mitzvah, right? Take the mitzvah, pligi. The argument between in this Mishnah between the Rabban and Rabbi Yehuda is lemitzvah. Lemitzvah means lechatchila. Be better to do it. That's why it starts in the way that it does. It flows from the other one. Rabbi Levi, mitzvah ka'amar. Look at Rabbi Levi, beginning of the Gemara. Amar Levi, mitzvah shel Rosh Hashanah v'Shem Kippurim. It doesn't mean it's a chiyuv. It means it's the mitzvah. It's a nice way of saying lechatchila. It's the best way. V'od atu pas v'kafuf k'tiv b'kra. Ta'aviru shofar k'tiv b'yovel. I mean, literally the word shofar appears in the yovel. V'alfinan Rosh Hashanah minei. We actually learned that you need a shofar in Rosh Hashanah from yovel. V'keven dekulu ikru shofar chutz mishal para. Lama lo yitzei. Of course it should be yotzei. Why shouldn't it be yotzei? It's all good because we learned the word shofar with regard to yovel, and we learned Rosh Hashanah from yovel, and it has the word shofar. So whatever's called a shofar, we already learned previously, is any horn other than a natural horn from a kosher animal, by the way. There's a suffix. If you can't, I should have said this earlier. You cannot just go to a store and say, hey, do you sell ram's horns here? If what if it was used for avodah zarah? What if it came from the Far East? What if someone had it in their pagan temple? I mean, it's possible. So you want to get it from a good source, even in Eretz Yisrael. You don't want to buy it just stomped from an Arab. I mean, if the animal's right there and they're sawing it off, okay, I get it. But you're buying it in a store, you make sure that it has the right pedigree. Our Balik Tekiah, I've asked them, where did you get your shofar? Where did it come from? How do you have it? I bought it in a flea market in Turkey. That's not good enough. It's not going to work. Yeah. If you go to Uzbekistan or something, that sounds like ibex. But it's got to know where you got it from. You have, it's right. There's a suffix. But in principle, if you had the animal in front of you and you sawed off the horn, right? You don't have to kill the animal to get the horn. You need to saw it off. So then you're using the horn. So okay. So then you know the animal. It's right here. So it's less of a chance assuming it's a kosher animal as well. The old masma the plukti the Rabban Rabbi Yossi b'fnei atzman uplukti the Rabban Rabbi Yehuda b'fnei atzman v'lav chada plukti. There's two Mishnayot and two Gemaras. So the Bali Tosfos would say these are two different arguments. Rabbanan had an argument with Rabbi Yossi about whether you could use shel para. Rabbi Yossi held even a shel para would be okay. That's step one. Step two is the Rabbanan in the second Mishnah say it should be Yael Pashut for Rosh Hashanah. Rabbi Yehuda says it should be an Ayil. Don't think that it's a four-way machloket where case one is it can be any animal, just not a para, but the third opinion says it has to be only an Ayil. Or Rabbi Yossi holds anything, including a para, and then the fourth opinion is just the ram, not the right. So okay. V'imtim salomar de davka iri. If you think it's davka, I mean there is an argument. It came havyachada plukta. Then it would be one big argument. The Tanakama kuluk sherin bein Rosh Hashanah bein Yom Kippurim bein betaniot chutz mishal para. Rabbi Yossi Omer af shal para. He would have said even a para. Leidach in the second Mishnah Rabbanan Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippurim mishal Yael v'taniot shal zecharim. Rabbi Yehuda Rosh Hashanah shal zecharim v'yol shal Yaelim. It would be a cholent. That's not correct. You have to realize the first argument is what it's about, actually li'ikuva. According to the Rabbanan, if you pick up the shofar made out of a horn from an ox, it's not a kosher shofar. In the second opinion, even though the Rabbanan say they think it should be a Yael, we actually end up passing Rabbi Yehuda, but that was all lechatchila anyway. If you went to Rabbi Yehuda's shul, they said, Rabbi, we don't have the ram. The ram's horn fell on the floor. It's cracked. We can't use it. We only have an ibex. Okay, you could use that too, and vice versa. But he points out Abiyu Ksat Kasha, Kasha Ksat. The Rabbi Levi, the Amar Mitzvah, Shorosh Shana Yom Kippurim, Hanim Shum Dial Finik Zera Shava, Zami Zeb, Shvi Shvi. When Rabbi Levi said on Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippurim you should do the same thing, and since on Rosh Hashanah you're going to use kafuf, so to Yom Kippurim you're going to use kafuf. Kidamrina, because of that Zera Shava Shvi Shvi, that we drew a bridge linking Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur's Yovel Yom Kippurim. Kidamrina Perak Batra, that's where the Zera Shava appears on the next chapter on page 34a. Right, that they're the same. We have a time of mishum mitzvah be'alma. So if it was just a mitzvah be'alma, means just the chatchila. Kinamrinan dekama dekayif inish tfei adif hainu davke rosh Hashanah shetkia l'tfila ulzikaron aval yovel enat kiela siman shilach avadim v'hashmatot hashmatot sadot hachozrot leba'alim. Meaning, if you really want to draw a strong link between the two, you're saying it's all about the Zera Shava linking Rosh Hashanah and Yovel on Yom Kippurim of Yovel. So then what are you giving me this whole rationale that, well, on Rosh Hashanah, it's Kamat Kayef Inish. On Yom Kippur, you don't have that because it's really just an announcement. So there you could use Pashut. Who cares? There's Zera Shava linking the two. And Rabbi Levi, you said there's that Zera Shava linking the two. So L'kacha and Nirali, Mitoch Zeh, the Eni Yotze Ela B'Kafuf. So therefore, I would say, no, it's only kafuf, and you can't use the other. Forget the rationale. There's a ger shava. Pirish tzarich liot kafuf. Ilo lo the gamrina yovel minei. That maybe the two of them are intrinsically linked. Once you say, like Rabbi Levi says, that they're intrinsically linked by ger shava, so it sounds like it would be the yikuva on the Yovel Yom Kippurim of Yovel. They have to use kayif. You can't use the pashut, even though later on sounded like he folded on that particular shaila. Okay, that's all we have time for. We got in a little Gemara here to Chav Vav Amud Bet to the bottom. We're holding for the next year on Chav Zayin Amud Aleph. We're going to toast on Chav Vav Amud Bet. Hakashav Sameach one and all. We will resume soon enough. I have here a note from Chuck Cohen to everyone. The Alpine Ibex, Capra Ibex, also known as the Steinbock, is a European species of goat which lives in the Alps. For the African antelope, sometimes known as Steinbuck or Steinbock, you should look up Steenbock, but we don't have that kind of time. Thank you so much, Chuck, for that was really incredible. Great coda for our learning. Wish everyone a Chakashav Sameach.